Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, and in this series we're going to be going over my unpopular opinions on astrology. Okay, this is the Unpopular Opinion Astrology series, and in this video my unpopular opinion is that Mars does not rule Scorpio. Okay, Mars does not rule Scorpio. I'll repeat, Mars does not rule Scorpio. Now, before we get into this, if you enjoy my readings, you certainly can book a reading with me. I do birth interpretation readings, birth chart interpretation readings, as well as tarot and both. All you gotta do is email me, okay, at samastroreadings@gmail.com, and we can certainly go forward with that. So getting back into the video, okay, this is my unpopular opinion series, and the unpopular opinion is that Mars does not rule Scorpio. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because when you're studying astrology, you're going to hear a lot that Mars rules Scorpio, okay? Scorpio's like this because Mars rules Scorpio. You're gonna get a lot of that information, and I'm here to say I'm debunking that, okay? And the reason why you're gonna hear Mars rules Scorpio all the time is because in ancient astrology, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto were not discovered as planets. So everyone from in ancient times, I think it was like our 1800s or 1700s, they only knew the planets up into Saturn. So when it came to assigning which planet rules which sign, they had to bunch up the rest of the signs. So they bunched up Mars with Aries and Scorpio. They bunched up Saturn with Aquarius and Capricorn. They bunched up, I believe, Jupiter with Pisces and Sagittarius. I debunk all of those, but right now we're just going to focus on Mars and with Scorpio. And I'm debunking all of that because we have discovered Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, so we no longer need to go by the old rulings. I'm a big believer that there is a lot of knowledge from ancient astrology and ancient history in general. So I'm not debunking ancient knowledge and history and culture, but I'm saying that as we advance as a society, we have to adapt and change. And discovering the three later planets is a reflection of that adaptation and change. And just Mars just does not rule Scorpio. So the first thing to understand is rulership, okay, what it means for a planet to rule a sign. And it's very simple. The sign and the planet do exactly what each other do. Okay, you will not see any discrepancies or any differences. Okay, just because a sign does well in a planet doesn't mean it's ruled by that planet. Being ruled by a planet means the sign does exactly what the planet does exactly what the sign does. Okay, they're the same energies, okay? They're just being explained in different ways, but they're the same energies. There's no discrepancies. And when it comes to Mars and Scorpio, there are a lot of discrepancies, okay? This is why it doesn't make sense. Now, I'm going to make a disclaimer, okay? Now, planets and signs can have a lot of things similar to each other. There are plenty of examples, but that still does not mean the sign rules it. And that's pretty much what people use when it comes to Mars and Scorpio. They see that they have a lot of things in common, so they say, oh, it's the ruler. That's not true. There are a lot of planets that have similar things with signs. Okay, for an example, Mars rules sex, the Sun rules sex, Pluto rules sex, and so does Venus. However, they all rule different signs because it's the way they approach it. Okay? Taurus and Pisces and Libra, they all deal with art. However, they're still ruled by different planets because they approach art in a different way. Okay? So the same will be said for Mars and Scorpio. Okay? These are the three main things that people are going to use to justify the rulership: power, sex, and anger. Scorpio deals with major things of Scorpio is power, sex, and anger, and so is Mars, power, sex, and anger. However, it is the approach. They are dealing with these topics in very different ways, and that's what makes it different, and that's how you get to the core of what a sign is and what its true rulership would be based on the approach. Don't just focus on the subject, okay? Sex. A lot of planets rule sex. Leo deals with sex. and it's ruled by the sun. Venus deals with sex and it's ruled by Venus. Libra deals with sex and is ruled by Venus. So they can have a lot of things in common, but see how they're approaching it, and that's how you get to the core of the energy. So I say that all to say, when it comes to Mars and Scorpio, power, anger, and sex, they are approaching these in two different ways. They're approaching these in different ways, which makes them different. And the reason is because Mars operates in a different element than Scorpio. Mars is a fiery planet. It deals with the fire element, fire themes. Scorpio is a water sign. It deals with the water element, water themes, water energy. If a planet is in a different element, a planet cannot rule a sign in a completely different element. That makes no sense, because that's going to directly let you know that they are very different. So let's get into it. The first thing you're going to hear a lot about is power. People are going to make the comparisons Mars to Scorpio because of power. Mars deals with power. Scorpio deals with power. That's the rulership. No, but they're addressing it in two different ways because they're in two different elements. When it comes to Mars and power, Mars is very instinctive. This is why Mars rules Aries. It's instinctive, so the power is direct, it's quick, it's at the moment, okay? It's at the moment, and it's direct power. When you talk about power, Mars, you're talking about your actual muscles, your actual strength. It's very direct, it's very physical, it's Mars energy. It's fire energy. When you talk about Scorpio and power, this is water energy. This is not the same. It's not approaching power in the same way. Okay, this is why Scorpios are a lot more strategic. They're intuitive. So Scorpio is going to wait and gain information first. It's not going to just lash out on its power. It's going to receive first. It's a water sign. It's intuitive. Instinctive versus intuition. Intuition receives information. So Scorpios don't react so quickly with their power. Their power is very strategic and timely, and it happens over time, and it could be a huge sneak attack. Their power games can be huge sneak attacks because it's water energy. It's a lot more secret. It's a lot more subtle. And again, it's receptive. Scorpio takes in information before it reacts. Okay, that's the difference. And look at their rulerships. Look at Mars. Mars rules Aries. Look how Aries acts. Aries is automatic. Okay, their power is automatic. It's very direct. It's about their strength. It's about their energy. They're very physical. It's instinctive. Scorpio, the proper ruler for Scorpio is Pluto. Okay, and when you talk about Pluto and power, Pluto, first of all, is the last planet. It represents the biggest changes in society because it's the planet that takes the longest to go around the world. So by the time Pluto makes its orbit, there's been so many transformations. It's slower, it takes time, it's more transformative, it's not as direct. Okay? This is the water energy, so their power dynamics are different. Mars is very much about physical, direct power. Scorpio is about intuitive power. It's about taking in information. It's about being strategic. It's about receiving information and peeping. This is why they move more slick. They move like Scorpios move like ninjas. You know, you got to be strategic. Mars is not about strategy at all. Mars is about you do it first and then you think later. Very Aries. I do it first and then I think about it later. Scorpio's not like that. Okay? And that's also why when it comes to Mars and Aries, it deals with the battle because it's direct. It's right there. It's the battle. Pluto in Scorpio, which Pluto's the correct ruler for Scorpio. Scorpio is the whole war. And when you look at war is not just about the battles. It's about strategy. You got to be taking in information. You just can't be reacting. Mars is a fiery planet. It rules a fire sign like Aries. It's instinctive. It's reactional. It's right there. It reacts. Pluto rules Scorpio. It's water energy. It's a lot more subtle. It's a lot more strategic. It's a lot more sneaky, and it can take way more time. Okay, that's the Scorpios don't play. Scorpios plot. It won't be in your face. Their revenge won't be in your face. I'm telling you. So different power dynamics. One is very direct and instinctive. One is very intuitive and subliminal. The second part is sex. Sex is going to be a huge comparison. They're always going to be like Mars rules Scorpio because of sex and sexual energy. As if other planets don't rule sex. As if Venus doesn't rule. I mean, as if other planets don't rule sex. First of all, Pluto rules sex. So why aren't you should be comparing Pluto's sexuality to Scorpio. But anyway, sex. Same thing. Aries, which is the Mars, Mars rules Aries. It's about direct sex. It's about the arousal. It's about your physical body and your energy. Okay? Mars is very much about the self. So when you're talking about sexual energy, it's approaching it in the sense of instinctive. It's self gratification. It's your arousal. It's your physical body. And it comes off very, like, just selfish in a sense. I wouldn't say really selfish because it's not selfish to be aroused, but it's more about your personal gratification, what your body is experiencing, because that's Mars energy. Mars rules Aries. Aries rules the self. The self. So when you talk about sexuality in Mars, it's not good to compare it to Scorpio. You can say Scorpio does well in Mars because they have sexual themes. However, they don't deal with it the same. Okay? Mars deals with it in a very direct, I would say it's like a hit it or quit it thing because it's about self-gratification. It's just about the arousal. Scorpio is different. It's a water sign. It's more intuitive. So sexual energy when it deals with Scorpio is not just about arousal. It's about the other partner. It's about connecting on the deepest level. This is water sex, emotional sex. This is the sex that attaches you to a person. That's why a lot of times people can say Scorpio use sex to brainwash people because they're truly attaching energies. It's about the soul bond. Do you see how much deeper that is? That's a much deeper energy. Okay? And this is why when you put Mars in Scorpio, the sexual energy is like an explosion because you have that Mars energy, which is very direct in your body, but you have the Scorpio energy, which is not the same as Aries. It's more soulful and intuitive. So you're blending the deepest form of sex and the most extroverted part of sex together. That's why it's explosive. It's not explosive because it's the same thing. That's Mars in Aries. Scorpio adds a different layer to the sexuality. It adds that deeper layer because Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. It's a water sign. It's intuition. It's the deeper form of sex. It's your soul's bonding. So Mars is not dealing with it on that deep level that Scorpio is dealing with sex. Mars is dealing with it on a very extroverted, I'm just aroused, me. Scorpio is about bonding with the other person. Scorpio is a water sign. Water signs, they connect. Water can dissolve into anything. It's about connecting. It's about the soul connection. It's emotional. It's an emotional bond. Okay? Very connected, very much about the other person and a very social connection. It's like two people coming together on a soul level. Mars doesn't deal with that. Mars is self, and just physical gratification. So it's a lot more superficial, but it's more instinctive sexual energy. Scorpio is intuitive sexual energy. So that causes more connection and depth, and it's soul bonding. Mars is not going to have you soul bonding. That's why Aries is not all about that deep stuff. Like Aries is very much hit it, quit it, move on. I'm being very direct. Very much about self-gratification. So again, they share the same topics, but they're approaching it differently because they're in different elements. Okay, Mars cannot rule Scorpio. Mars is a fiery planet. Well, how can it rule a water sign? That doesn't even make sense. It does not make sense. The next thing that people are going to use a lot is anger. Okay, Mars deals with the adrenaline and anger, and so does Scorpio. And it's true. However, again, both in different elements. Mars deals with the fire element. Scorpio deals with the water element. So their anger is different. Aries is very much, again, about direct anger. They're going to take action right then and there. You do something, Aries pops off right then and there. You do something to Scorpio, Scorpio is going to take their time. They're going to peep what you did. And then they're going to start treating you accordingly. It's a lot more intuitive. Scorpio is not going to react just easily like that. Scorpio is not shaken like that. They're going to take in the information and say, ooh, I see it. and then they're going to play your game. So it's more intuitive. They take in information first and then they react. And that reaction can be very sneaky, very out of nowhere. Again, it's water energy. Okay? Scorpio is like the deep-seated anger that sits in and then boils up. So you might get a Scorpio upset and you might think they're not upset because they're not ruled by Mars. They're not going to act out. So they're not ruled by Mars. Mars, which rules Aries, they're going to act out. You get an Aries mad, they're going to act out right then and there. Scorpio's not. And you're going to think it's all cool and okay. And then you start seeing the Scorpios moving differently and they start treating you a bit differently. And then something happens out of nowhere and they get their payback. And you're like, I didn't even know Scorpio had a problem. Yeah, because they're ruled by Pluto. You're not supposed to know. Remember, when it comes to Mars, Mars is the battle. Scorpio is the war. It's a lot more strategic. And Scorpio is more strategic because they receive energy. So they're receiving information and they're letting it settle. Scorpio is not fire. It's boiling water. I'm going to repeat that again. Scorpio is not fire. It is boiling water. There is a huge difference. Fire is like that. Fire is like Mars and Aries. Right then and there, you're going to get it. Scorpio, it takes time for the water to boil. Okay? But it'll eventually heat up. And it's going to be boiling. It's going to feel hot like fire, but it's not. It's actually boiling water. There's a difference because they act differently. Water has to heat up. Fire is hot. So the anger is different. Okay, this is why Mars in Aries is the battle. Pluto and Scorpio is the war. Okay, so I'm here to say you don't need to be attached to everything of ancient astrology. These people did not discover Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto yet, so they had to deal with what was set in them. They were limited in some information. Not everything. There's still so many valuable things. I mean, come on, I would never debunk history. But what I'm here to say is that you need to look at these energies more with a more detailed eye. Just because a planet shares a same subject as a sign does not mean they're doing it the same. You got to see how they approach that energy. They do have a lot of similarities. My last Unpopular was about Saturn and Aquarius, which they have nothing in common with. So that was easy to debunk. With Scorpio, yeah, they do have a lot of things in common, like power, sex and anger, but look how they approach it. That's how you know Mars is not ruled by Scorpio. Scorpio is too intuitive, too strategic, too quiet to be ruled by Mars. There's no, and some people say, oh, well, that Scorpio represents the inner part of Mars. Mars doesn't operate in duality. Mars is not a dual sign. Mars is direct. Mars rules Aries, the first sign, number one. Mars isn't going to have all these complexities. That's the last planet to have all these complexities. That's the direct planet. It's one. It's only going to rule one sign. It's Aries, not Scorpio. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. Okay? Different elements will automatically, you know that the sign will not rule another sign that's from a different element. Because even though they'll share the same topic, power, sex, and anger, they will approach it very differently. So that's my unpopular opinion. Mars does not rule Scorpio. The proper ruler for Scorpio is Pluto. Go study Pluto. Everything makes sense. And Mars rules Aries. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you agree with me, let me know. If you disagree with me, let me know. Let me know in the comment section below. I really love the Unpopular Astrology series. And I'll check you guys out on the next video. Thanks for watching. And also, don't forget to book a reading with me at samastroreadings@gmail.com. And I'll see you guys in the next video.